Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Planetary Wisdom. This is for the full moon in Taurus happening on November the 19th for those on the progressive side of the date line, otherwise November the 18th. So let's have a look at the influences that are going to be happening. I'll give you actually a visual. Actually, no, I'm going to chat first about the fact that it is a partial lunar eclipse. So yes, you'll hear people saying we've entered eclipse season. We actually entered on the new moon. Okay, so what happens in the next 6 to 8 weeks is going to affect the next 6 months. All right, so big changes are often expected during eclipses. What are eclipses? Well, that's when things align and cross over from our vantage point. So this takes us to the extremes, to to the edge of perhaps our perception, our coping abilities, but also it can be a time where it's more challenging to maintain your personal balance and equilibrium. So this is a time to really be as grounded as possible, especially because we're coming up to full moon in Taurus, which, being an earth sign, the youngest of the earth signs, it really asks us to show up present in our bodies. Okay, so this is a time to really increase your self-care practices and self-love. It's ruled by Venus, Taurus, and the lesson is self-love. So if we're not embodying self-love, then the first thing we're probably going to neglect is our bodies, okay, by eating food that's a treat to self-soothe rather than food that can truly nourish our body, food as medicine. Or we might choose people that look good, okay, might be sexually attractive to us, but don't have the emotional, psychological capacity for love, don't have the maturity. So, this is going to illuminate for us how what we value. Okay, so this is the second sign in the zodiac wheel, and it's about our values. So Taurus governs our material possessions, the things that we seek material security in. So that's property and real estate, that's investment, whether that's stocks and bonds or crypto, and just finances in general, our possessions. So an eclipse can usher in sudden changes around our finances and our possessions. So we may unexpectedly be told that we have to move house, or we're going to receive an inheritance, or our crypto goes vertical, or we lose everything, our nest egg. So, the fact that we have Uranus, the sign of sudden unexpected change in Taurus, the sign of the full moon, is likely to accentuate that. Now, what happens during a partial lunar eclipse is that the moon moves through the Earth's shadow. Okay, so it won't be a complete, what they call a blood moon, where the whole shadow of the Earth is projected up onto the moon, giving it a sort of a reddy hue, which was often feared as a harbinger of great change, but a partial one. But nonetheless, I feel that when we experience a lunar eclipse, even if it's a partial one, that this is potentially more challenging for women and those who are more feminine dominant, okay, soul dominant, okay, more governed by their inner feelings, their inner thoughts. Why? Because the moon is getting covered over, okay, and the moon represents our inner self, which is our inner child, our feminine, our soul. So if we think about it, physically, the Earth is being eclipsed by the Earth's shadow. What's the shadow? Well, that can be our unconscious thoughts, words, and behavior. So you might feel extra sensitive to, you know, the state of the world, to the global shadow, the corruption that's being exposed, or just to how wounding the unconscious choices are, whether it's of those in power or those that are in your family, or, you know, your partner, and the effect that that has, you know, on you, your children, so forth. So just know this too shall pass, but it may be particularly intense because we will still have the sun in Scorpio. And what does the sun in Scorpio ask us to do? To change, to transform. And it does that through bringing up very intense emotional experiences that really, you know, bring things to a head and, you know, cause us to change ourselves, if in the acknowledgement that sometimes we are powerless to change anything else but ourselves, okay, our perception. So yeah, if things seem more intense than usual, you're right, they are. This will be the longest eclipse in the last century, okay, 100 years. So NASA says it's going to last 3 hours, basically 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 28 minutes and 23 seconds. So that in itself is intense, okay? We're going to be exposed to the shadow for longer than usual. Now, we will be experiencing this in this 2-week period leading up to the eclipse, not just within those 3.5 hours, but it's often said that it's the effect of the eclipse, so intense, sudden change, extreme emotional sort of outbursts and behaviors that are emotionally, you know, motivated, are more likely where the eclipse is visible. And that's all 50 states of the US and Mexico, Australia, Northern Europe, and the Pacific islands. So if you're in those countries, know that this is where the shadow is most likely going to be exposed for all to see. And it's already begun. Here in Australia, we've got tribal elders calling out the Australian government for what it is, a fictitious corporate entity that is listed on the US stock exchange. Anyone can go and find it. So they're calling it out as a complete farce and a fiction, and inviting Australians, regardless of whether they're black or white, to join with them as sovereigns and to literally enter into a treaty with them. And I'll include the link for any Australians that are watching this that want to be part of that treaty, to be represented by Indigenous Australians rather than the corrupt, fictitious government, which is very exciting. So they're calling on tribal leaders around the world to enact this, and for black and white to join against the tyranny of the common enemy. So very exciting changes afoot. With the Scorpio sun, that's really, you know, like a torch under the bed, going to flush out any covert behaviors and things that have been deliberately hidden because they're, you know, not in integrity. Pluto, ruler of Scorpio, you know, it's like, let's just bury that. So we also have Saturn, okay, the planet of the old guard of rules and structures and the status quo, conservatism, squaring Uranus, that planet of the rebel youth, Uranus, the ruling planet of Uranus. So this is going to usher in unprecedented challenges to the old guard, all right, whether that's the crown, you know, government, just old structures of authority. And it's also going to usher in unprecedented innovation, really exciting innovations that restore equality and more of a unilateral playing field and distribution of wealth, and, you know, positive change. Okay.